Well, hello. Welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on January 30th, 2022. It is already the 31st in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. So if you're watching this and you're from that part of the world, happy Chinese New Year's Eve to you. I hope you are getting ready to have a great feast with your family. Every time, every year, when we get to this time, right before Chinese New Year, Johnny Tiger always feels a little bit uh, melancholy, a little bit blue, you can say. Because I know that back at home, this is when my people are all sitting together. Families get together, no matter if they are in another city, they'll try to come home. People will put aside old grudges and current problems, at least for this night, and sit down like civilized people, enjoy a proper meal together, and talk and enjoy each other's company. But here I am in a country where this is not really a custom, and now with this silly pandemic, getting together with people is not definitely not a wise thing to do. So yeah, I guess this year, New Year's Eve will just be me and the two boys and kitten on the phone. Well, that's okay. That's still uh, like a family, just a little bit virtual, I guess. This last week, I had a chance to have a chat on long distance phone with my dad, and we talked for almost 2 hours. And even though there were a lot of things that came up in the conversation that was not what I would call enjoyable, at least for me, uh, there was one part of our conversation that touched me uh, quite deep in my soul that I feel uh, it is something that I want to talk about. In case you guys have not been paying attention to past Soul Search Sundays, my father, not what you would call a nice person. I mean, right now he's 80 years old and he got dementia and he's very unreasonable and confused a lot of the time. He's even harder to get along with than ever. 80 years old, and in his own word, the only person in this world that would actually sit down and converse with him seriously is me. I've always been that person, that child to him, even when I was little, when I was a teenager. Sometimes when my father was up late and couldn't sleep and a lot of things were bothering him, I was the person he would talk to. Maybe it's not surprising that I eventually became a counselor by career. Maybe it's all the training I've had uh, unknowingly provided by my father. But as I mentioned, as I was saying, my father has never been an easy person to get along with. When he was younger, even before dementia, he was, well, quite psychotic. And I don't say that as a joke. He was very, very impulsive, very angry, very violent. Um, he was the kind of guy who you take him to a restaurant, and if there was something wrong with his meal, You never know what he's going to do. He may talk to the manager and try to get 10 free meals out of the restaurant, or he may decide to um, sue them in court, or he's just as likely to trash the place in a fit of anger. On top of that, my father has always been very distant, very self-centered. He's the kind of guy that likes to be surrounded by people, and yet no one's allowed to say anything. Like, he wanted us to watch TV with him, but we are not allowed to converse. We're not allowed to laugh too loudly. Uh, he just wanted us there, but we were not supposed to disturb him. When he was working, he wanted everyone to wait in the office, just sit on the couch, watch him work, but no one's allowed to say anything or have a conversation. He's always been that kind of a person, very hard to get along, very scary. Um, like I said, extremely prone to violent outbursts and extreme repercussions. Now let's talk about my stepmother. If you seen some of my past videos in Soul Search Sunday, or if you've seen the Night Strike documentary on JohnnyTiger.com, if you haven't, go take a look. JohnnyTiger.com, Night Strike documentary. It will make more sense after you watch that. So if you have been paying attention, then you know that my stepmother and I have had a very uh, bad history with each other. Uh, she put me through so much abuse. She murdered my pets, tried to have me poisoned. She's done a lot of bad things toward me. I don't want to dwell too much on it right now because that's not the point of this video. Suffice to say, she did not only do those things to me, she did it to a lesser extent to her own children, and she had done so much bad things to my father in their almost 30 years together. Uh, she was constantly cheating on him, she was constantly stealing his money, and uh, he ended up in jail or having to go to court a few times because of her, because of something. And in the end, he even got deported from Canada because of her. She's done a lot. And this is one of those big mysteries that I have been trying to figure out for most of my adult life. One of those life mysteries that I thought I would never have an answer. A guy like my father, so violent, so impulsive, uh, so self-centered. How is it that my stepmother was able to do so much to him? And every single time, he would beat her up. She ended up in the hospital a lot, but she was always forgiven afterward. It's almost like my dad was this idiot that would beat her up. She ended up in the hospital, and then he would forgive her and thinking that everything's okay now, and then she would do something really bad again, got him put in jail or cheat on him, and then he would beat her up, and she would end up in the hospital, and then she would be forgiven, and it's like everything was okay again until the next time she screwed him over. Like this is what has been one of those big mysteries that I try to figure out like what's going on there. Why is this guy who's supposedly so smart, so violent, so incredibly strong and ruthless? How is it that he just couldn't say, okay, you know what, enough is enough. You screwed me over for the last time. All these years, my only conclusion, I had there was two possibilities. One, my dad was really an idiot when it came to women. Two, maybe there was some true love in there somewhere. But neither of these fit his characterization. Neither of these scenarios would fit with the way he operates because he's not that way with other women. Uh, and I don't know if a guy like my father is able to love someone the way that you and I, as normal people, is able to. In his own way, he loves, but his idea of love is to possess. So it's probably not that either. Well, like I said, I thought I would go through the rest of my life and never figure out my dad's idiocy in this matter. But this time, during our conversation, my father gave me a glimpse into understanding why he put up with this evil, treacherous woman for all those years. In my father's own word, he said, "Do you know why I put up with your stepmother for so long, no matter what she did to me?" And I said, "No." Yeah, honestly, I've been wondering about that my whole life, because that's not you. You're not that nice. And he said, "You're right. I'm not that nice. Any other people, anyone else that screwed me over that many times, I would have probably hit them over the head and buried them in the yard, and legal consequences be damned. But I never once thought about abandoning your stepmother. I never once thought about murdering her in her sleep. And there's a reason." So it turns out that when they first met each other, oh so long ago, and we're talking about 55 years ago, in the late 60s, mid 60s, late 60s, in Hong Kong. My father uh, was going through some real trouble in Taiwan, and he basically got exiled to Hong Kong and couldn't come back to Taiwan. He stayed in Hong Kong for 15 years of his life. While he was there, he was also undercover for the Taiwanese government, doing some uh, uh, espionage stuff. But that's neither here or there. Not really important to our story. Um, Long story short, when he first arrived in Hong Kong, he had nothing. By the time he met with my stepmother, well, by the time she met him, he already established himself and owned his own business and was on his way up to become quite well off, quite comfortable. Uh, but like I said, um, at this time, she, uh, uh, he was doing some uh, secretive stuff for Taiwanese government in Hong Kong, which Hong Kong back then belonged to British, England. So he was a foreign agent operating illegally on a foreign soil, which means if he got caught, he could be in for a lot of really serious trouble, uh, including getting killed by uh, British agents or other agents that were operating in Hong Kong at the time. Now, in my father's own word, him and my stepmother never went through the romantic dating thing. They never did fall in love with each other. She came to work for him as a secretary, and she was very good as a secretary. She knew English, she knew Cantonese, she knew Mandarin, and she was very good with keeping the uh, keeping book, keeping their finance straight for the company. And suddenly, for a couple of days, she didn't show up for work. And my dad, since she was his secretary, he couldn't really function without someone there to keep his appointment and all that stuff. So he called her address, her phone number, inquired about how come she's not coming to work. And then that's when he found out that her mom, and this is the thing, this is a glimpse into my stepmother's own past. Her own mother actually sold her to a sailor without her permission, without her consent. Now, this sounds crazy nowadays. We hear it from now, but we think in the late 60s, mid 60s in Hong Kong, this kind of thing was very normal for parents to do to get some money. So her mom informed my father that she was not going to come to work anymore because she's getting married. She's going to marry the sailor, and they collected the money already, so she's going to go off with the sailor. And my dad didn't think much of it. He thought, "Oh, well, okay." Obviously, the mom didn't say I sold my daughter to the sailor. The mom said my daughter is getting married. That's why she's not coming to work. Well, not until a couple of days later that uh, my dad ran into my stepmother on the street, and she looked very, very sad. And my dad asked her, "Well, why you look so sad? You're getting married. That's why you're not coming to work, right?" And that's where he found out that it was against her will. She got sold to the sailor. My dad was what you would call the kind of guy that have a savior complex, kind of a hero complex. So when he saw her so sad and heard that she was being sold to the sailor against her wish, immediately he decided to save her, and so they went off and got married in local chapel. And then he went to see the sailor and said, "Hey, she's already married to me. Sorry, dude. Here's your money back. Get lost." Uh, so essentially, my dad back then married her to rescue her from the situation that she didn't want to get into. But they were not in love with each other or anything. There's no romance, nothing going on. Well, long story short, a few months later, only a few months into their marriage, my father's identity as a Taiwanese secret agent uh, got found out, and he got arrested. And they tried to pin all kind of crimes on my father, so they could put him in jail for a long time. Uh, the way my father told it to me this during our conversation was when he was in when he was being held for interrogation. That was when they beat him so bad that they ruptured his larynx. That's why my father, even to this day, sounds like he always sounds like he has a really bad cold. And this raspy voice like a like the Godfather. People told me that prior to my father's throat injury, he had a voice like me. He could sing really, really well. They tortured him when they were interrogating him. But worse than that, they tried to go to his newlywed wife and offer her money so she would turn witness against him. They wanted her to be the crown's witness, so she could say, yeah, he told me he's a Taiwanese agent and he did this, and that. My stepmother did not take their money and she refused to be their witness, so they tortured her too. According to my father, when the whole thing was over and he was finally set free due to lack of evidence, when he saw her, she looked like she's lost 50 pounds, and they starved her, they burned her with a cigarette butt, and she had burn marks up and down both arms and on her back. But through all that, she never turned witness against him. My father said to me, he said, I know that you guys all think that I've been an idiot to put up with that woman for so long. I know what you guys think of me. I know that you guys don't understand. But when a woman was tortured because she wanted to keep you safe, when she could have easily take their money and be their witness, but she didn't, you feel like you owe her your life. And this is why every time she screwed me over, every time she did something bad toward me, yes, I got angry. I beat her up. But I never held it against her because every time when I got angry, I just had to remember all those burn marks on her body, what they did to her, but she never turned against me. My father's gratitude toward this woman went so deep that back in 1998, when she cheated on him for that last time and decided to marry someone else, so she served him a divorce paper. He was angry, he was hurt, but without a second word, he signed their house over to her. That was the last house my father's ever owned. He didn't keep anything for himself. He gave her the house, their credit card, their bank account, everything. Wish her good luck. And even when she was instrumental in getting him deported from Canada, 4 years after that, he never said a word of hatred toward her. I live my life quite often reveling in the fact that I am a much better person than my father ever was. But this was one instance when I felt that, wow, I am not half the man that my father was when it came to forgiveness and gratitude, because I wouldn't be able to put up with a woman like that for that long, even if she did get tortured because of me in the beginning. I might have been able to put up with her for uh, a few issues, but not nowhere near as long as my father did, and I definitely would be very bitter toward this woman. I wouldn't be as I wouldn't be able to be as forgiving as my father was toward her, just based on simple gratitude alone. The world is an ever-changing place, and the world is an interesting place. Sometimes the most despicable, most ruthless, the most unreasonable, most uh, crazy, monstrous people that we know can suddenly show us a glimpse into their past, their reasoning, and show us that they are human after all, and that there's something that they did they put up with that we can really feel humble when it's laid out in front of us.